Thank you, Madam Speaker. I present before you the Medicines and Related Substances Bill 2025, which is a draft of the above bill, which is intended to be presented to the National Assembly and is set out as below. The object of this bill is to repeal and reenact with amendments the Medicines and Related Substances Act to adequately address shortfalls identified in the existing Act and achieve World Health Organization Maturity Level 3 regulatory standards, and to align with the African Union Model Law on Medical Products Regulation and address local regulatory environment challenges. The bill represents a comprehensive modernization of Botswana's pharmaceutical regulatory framework. It is anchored on some technical rationales and strategic benefits which would underpin Botswana's key public health priorities, economic development goals, and regional integration aspirations with full alignment to the African Union Model Law on Medical Products Regulation. The foundational rationale for reform is as below. Primary drivers for legislative change. The bill represents a comprehensive modernization of Botswana's pharmaceutical regulatory framework driven by three critical imperatives. And these would be: the current Act lacks the legal framework required for World Health Organization, GBT, or global benchmarking tool, cross-cutting quality and risk management systems. It is also insufficient in terms of legal provisions for risk-based regulatory approaches across all regulatory functions. There is also an absence of mandatory quality management systems provisions for the National Regulatory Authority. There is also limited legal authority for comprehensive post-market surveillance and vigilance systems. Now, we're looking at an alignment with the African Union Model Law alignment. And these would mean this: integration of harmonized regulatory standards to facilitate regional trade, implementation of mutual recognition frameworks for pharmaceutical products, establishment of risk-based classification systems consistent with AU standards, legal provisions enabling participation in continental regulatory initiatives. And in terms of the local environment adaptation, the bill would look to address Botswana's unique market characteristics and public health priorities, to strengthen local pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities, enhance regulatory capacity for emerging product categories such as cannabis-derived products and biologics. We're also looking, Madam Speaker, at addressing systematic gaps in the current legislation. And we note that the current Medicines and Related Substances Act exhibits critical limitations that hinder effective regulation in the following manner. There currently is regulatory fragmentation. The law treats medicines, medical devices, and cosmetics as separate domains, thus creating enforcement challenges. The unified approach which the bill brings about is as the WHO recommends. There's also limited enforcement powers. Currently, the authority lacks explicit authority to mandate recalls or impose graduated penalties, which is a deficiency which will be addressed through Clause 6 in terms of the expanded powers and also Part 8 of the bill. There is currently also outdated technical standards where we find that currently quality control provisions do not reflect modern International Organization for Standardization, ISO, locally adopted through ISO 9001, ISO 14001, ISO 45001, and ISO 27001, and other International Council for Harmonization of Technical Requirements for Pharmaceuticals for Human Use standards, thus creating barriers for products to enter regional trade. There's also reforms in this bill which directly support our Vision 2036 goals for health system strengthening, economic diversification through pharmaceutical sector development, African Continental Free Trade Area implementation by meeting regional harmonization requirements. We also, Madam Speaker, note in here that there is strategic benefits that will accrue to the country from this bill. Under Clause 6, the clear and clarity of mandate enables decisive action against substandard medicines. And currently, we note that there is an estimated 13% prevalence of such in the SADC region. Under Clause 3, we are also stating a binding provision which ensures that there shall be uniform compliance across public and private sectors. We also note that there's a sanctions framework which will create a deterrence against pharmaceutical crimes in the country. And we note in here that at 4.4, we shall have a national quality control laboratory which will ensure that reliance on foreign laboratories is a thing of the past. We also note that through ISO 17025, we will ensure alignment and international recognition of test results from our labs in Botswana. And we will also be able to expand the testing scope, which shall include medicines, small molecules and biologics, medical devices performance, cosmetic safety parameters, and through this, we will be able to save costs up to 12 million pula annually, as we will reduce the need for overseas testing. And we are also noting, Madam Speaker, that we are bringing about cosmetics regulation because currently in our environment, cosmetic market poses public health risks, with studies showing that up to 22% of sampled products contain prohibited substances. And this happened because of the current inadequate regulatory framework. And the bill also brings about some innovative approaches, and these include risk-based classification, that is general versus special use, which optimizes regulatory resources. It also includes mandatory adverse event reporting, which will help us create early warning systems. We also note, Madam Speaker, that we are moving towards regional harmonization as envisaged under Part 21 of the bill. The rationale for this is that we currently have disjointed regulations which cost the Botswana pharmaceutical importers an estimated 85 million pula annually in duplicate testing and delays. And having said this, you will note that there will be economic benefits that will accrue to our country, and these economic benefits are listed as below. There will be mutual recognition clauses which can reduce medicine registration time from 18 to 6 months, which therefore will also help when local producers and others are listing their products for registration. We note also in here that the American Medical Association alignment that is being facilitated by this bill will facilitate access to pooled procurement mechanisms. In terms of the SADC, harmonization also boosts export opportunities for local manufacturers. As you would appreciate, honourable members, that we currently are a small population, and any economic or economical production of medical products in our country would need to access the regional markets. The bill therefore presents or represents a strategic transformation of Botswana's pharmaceutical regulatory system, and it is specifically designed to achieve the World Health Organization GBT ML3 standards while aligning with AU model law requirements and addressing local regulatory environment needs. And when we speak about reaching maturity level 3, we are basically saying to you that our regulatory authority should be in a position where whatever test and certification it provides gets to be trusted by other countries as a country or as an authority with a certain level of maturity to designate products as of a certain quality and level. To summarize, Part 1 of the bill addresses preliminary matters, as you would read for yourself. Part 2 of the bill sets out the continuation of the authority as the entity responsible for regulation of sales, distribution, importation, exportation, manufacture, and dispensing of medicines and related substances in Botswana. Clause 6 sets out powers of the authority by inter alia empowering the authority to formulate guidelines, regulate the performance of clinical trials, and where necessary, to recall unfit products from markets. Clause 7 sets out the functions of the authority, which include performing testing and analysis of medicines, conducting marketing surveillance, as well as collaborating with other entities in and outside Botswana that are responsible for regulating medicines, related substances, among other things. Part 3 of the bill, Madam Speaker, provides for the constitution of the Board of Authority, the powers and functions of the board, and the tenure of office of members of the board. Part 4, meanwhile, provides for the meetings and proceedings of the board of the authority and the election of the vice chairperson of the board, while in terms of Clause 17, members shall elect from among themselves a vice chairperson, and the provisions for tenure and filling of vacancies are set out thereunder. This part also provides for meetings, quorum, security, or rather secretary of the board, as well as anti-corruption provisions on disclosure of interest and confidentiality as provided for under Clause 22 and 23. Part 5 of the bill, meanwhile, makes provision for the appointment of the Chief Executive Officer who shall be charged with the day-to-day management of the affairs of the authority. And at Clause 24, the bill substitutes for Section 5 of the Act to give more detail to the duties of the Chief Executive Officer and match it with similar improved provisions in the statute book. Part 6 of the bill contains the financial provisions such as the financial year of the authority and the submission of annual reports. Part 7 makes provision for the establishment of the National Quality Control Laboratory, which shall be responsible for performing functions relating to the authority or other quality of products regulated in terms of the Act. Part 8 of the bill provides for the control of registration, importation, exportation, manufacture, distribution, sale, and dispensing of regulated products. Under it, Clause 37 prohibits the import, export, manufacture of regulated products that have not been registered by the authority. While Clause 37, subsection 8, requires peculiarity for a coordinated assessment of cannabis products intended to be registered as regulated products in our country. Under this part, it is also required that an applicant must have a local presence. This is an important requirement to ensure local accountability and ensure jurisdiction of the Botswana courts. Clause 44 provides maintenance of register, while Clause 48 seeks to set out parameters for registering orphan medical products to address, among other things, chronic or debilitating conditions, as well as incentivizing industry to produce such life-saving medicines. Part 9 of the bill prohibits clinical trials on humans or animals without prior authorization of the authority or the director responsible for veterinary services. It emphasizes an ethical approach to conducting clinical trials. Study participants of clinical trials must be protected, and it is the duty of the authority to monitor and audit clinical trials in Botswana throughout this authorized period. Part 10 prescribes that premises used for dealing in medicines and medical products be duly licensed and require for notification of the authority where there are any changes in ownership. It also regulates for procedures to be followed where medicines are marketed online. Part 11 regulates the international trade of medicines and medical products so that the authority at any point is made aware and can provide necessary controls on such transactions as it does on local dealers. Parts 12, 13, 14, and 16, meanwhile, deal with vigilance and post-market surveillance, recalling and disposals of unfit products, inspections and controls around advertising and promotion of medicines and medical products. Part 15 and Part 18 provide for classification of medicines and cosmetics, respectively, while Part 9 and 20 of the bill provide for the establishment of the National Medicines and Therapeutics Board and an ethics committee to ensure oversight of ethical conduct by those regulated by the Act, whereas Part 22 provides for the procedure for appeals made against the decisions of the authority, and such appeals are to be made to an appeals committee. Part 23 of the bill contains miscellaneous provisions under this bill. We are, Madam Speaker, in a position or in a point where we are catapulting the country in terms of the way it regulates medical medicines and medical-related substances into the future. And I so submit. Thank you.